This is how most people think about buying a house. They think grandma bought a house in Austin, Texas in 1970 for $100,000. Grandma just sold it 50 years later for $1 million. Grandma made $900,000. They go, it's the most profitable thing you could do, buy a house. I go, okay, that sounds really nice. Did Granny factor in how much she spent on maintenance for the past 50 years? No. Did Granny factor in inflation and how that affected her return? No. What's inflation? Did Granny factor in the opportunity costs of what that down payment could have been used if invested in the S&P 500? No. And did Granny look at all these phantom costs such as interest on the loan? No. It's not simply the bigger number minus the smaller number. That's wrong. That is simplistic. For the biggest purchase of your life, you've got to go deeper. Again, when I was living here, I kept a very close eye on real estate. And the place right next to me, same square footage, same number of bedrooms, same everything, it would have cost 2.2 times what I was paying in rent. So just to give you an example, if I was paying $3,000 a month, it would have cost about $6,400 a month to own. Okay. I said, you know what? I like renting. If I have a problem, I just text my landlord. I took the $3,400 I would have spent owning when factoring in phantom costs, maintenance, interest, taxes, all that, and I simply invested it. And I made more money doing that than I would have owning.
I'm gonna just say, if that was my grandma, listen, grandma's straight. Grandma is rich. She done made $900,000 off of what she did way back 50 years ago. I know my grandma is 92 years old right now. Like, if grandma can get her hands on 900,000, shoot, she ain't even worried about it. But today we're gonna talk about the 8 biggest mistakes that first-time home buyers or just home buyers in general make when buying a house. Now, if you are listening to somebody like him, you got to take it with a grain of salt. First of all, a lot of y'all don't even know how to invest. Right? So you can go invest your money in something. I knew a lot of people lost their money with Bitcoin because you sold too early. All right. So that's just an example of like, hey, investing might not always be the best for you if you don't know what you're doing. But I firmly believe that home ownership is still the best way to build wealth, and it's still one of the best things for stability and just having your own home. Like, all of that stuff is great, but you gotta do it the right way. You don't believe me? Listen to this person.
Y'all, I am regretting buying a house. My fiance and I have not even lived in it for a year, and we had to buy an AC unit already, which is thousands and thousands of dollars. Obviously.
Y'all, if you never had to replace an AC, I'm telling you, them ACs are not a joke. Replace our AC, furnace, all of that. It was like 25,000.
Obviously necessary and worth it, but very unfortunate. We're also trying to plan a wedding, so that was not ideal for the budget. And then we had add gutters. And then on top of that, we now probably have to replace our water heater. Just can't catch a break. And before anyone comes at me, we did have an inspection. None of it was flagged. So it's been a rough day. It's been a rough couple months.
Yeah, and so the first thing or the first item on my list here that home buyers are making a mistake purchasing a home is you all aren't really understanding the true cost of home ownership. So you got to understand, if you've been renting your whole life, you haven't thought about all the different things that a homeowner would have to pay. And when you become a homeowner, everything is going to fall on your shoulders. That means that not only do you have to pay, of course, to keep the roof over your head, but when the actual roof starts leaking, you got to pay for that. When you have pest control issues, you have to pay for that. When you have AC problems, like she just mentioned, you have to pay for that. I had one client that was selling a house before, and we got all the way up until closing. Attorney calls and they're like, hey, by the way, they tell you that they have a lien on their house from the AC company for 22 grand. And I'm like, no, they ain't tell me that. So yeah, they had to pay an extra 22, or not really extra because they already signed up to pay it, but an unanticipated cost of $22,000 at closing because they had to replace the AC on that house, right? And then there's also the other things that you all don't think. Buy a house, utilities for a house are different from utilities for an apartment. Bigger house, higher electric bills. All of these are the things that first time home buyers and really just buyers in general, you don't budget for. So don't make the first mistake of many. We're talking about 8 mistakes today. And the first one is not understanding the total cost of home ownership. And trust me, the second mistake that people are making is just as bad, but you're about to find it.
I'm in the process of buying my very first house as a 28-year-old with no kids. I'm not married. I am in a relationship. I close in 7 days, and I feel like I should be super excited right now and happy, but in reality, I am terrified. And I am so nervous, and I want to back out, but it is literally way too late in the process for me to back out. And I've missed my last chance to do that. And so now I am just like sitting here and regretting my decision. But we're just going to have to make it work. We're going to have to figure it out. And yeah, I'm going to be house poor. Like, I don't know how I'm going to afford food. I don't know how I'm going to afford gas. I don't know what I'm doing. Who let me do this? Who let me do this?
Ma'am, you let yourself do it. More importantly, the second thing that I'm about to tell you is what she fell victim to. So do not let your emotions guide your decision when it comes to buying a house. Now, I know that buying a home is like an emotional thing. You're thinking about family and all of the memories you're gonna have there. All of that stuff is great. But remember, you're still spending a couple $100,000, right? And you want to do it when you are actually ready. So she is walking into home ownership knowing that she is going to be house poor. That is like very, very terrible thing to be doing. For those of y'all who don't understand, house poor means it just basically means that you have enough money to pay for your house, but no money to do anything. So like there's no more going out, there's no dinner parties. Well, this is going to be at her house, vacation. All of that stuff is out the window because now she has to pay a mortgage. And chances are she bought a house because somebody told her or guilt tripped her into buying a house. Listen, as a realtor, been doing this 10 years here in Metro Atlanta, or almost. I can tell you, buy a house when you're ready, when it makes sense, financially, emotionally, all that great stuff. Virginia Screw, you already know what time it is. Before we get into the rest of this list, drop the track. Welcome back, welcome back. It is the Market Genius, home of the not financial advice, but advice that's going to help you out financially, right? So make sure you like, subscribe, tune into this channel because we're going to keep dropping gems and keep making sure you are better off when it comes to real estate, stocks, news, uh, stuff about the family, just being overall better person, right? So tune in. I'm not asking you to buy anything. I'm not asking you for any money. I'm just asking you simply throw me a like. Like the video, throw me a like. Let's keep rolling. Now we just talked about 2 mistakes that people make: getting emotional and not understanding true cost of home. The third thing that people are doing, or the third mistake that is very common, is not shopping around for a mortgage, right? So when you are getting pre-approved, I always advise people get a pre-approval from several lenders. Like talk to a couple of different lenders, let them know your vision, let them budget, and then you compare, right? Say, I've got this pre-approval from bank or mortgage broker A. What do you think that you could do to compete with it? See if you can lower their loan origination fees. See if their interest rate can be made better. See what it costs to buy down points on each one, right? You definitely have to make sure that you compare and understand what kind of mortgage you're getting, even if you're getting first-time home buyer assistance or just any down payment assistance grant. Make sure you understand what you're doing, because this person clearly Nobody told them up front.
Imagine if you use a down payment assistance program to buy your first home and you go to sell that home 3 years later and they tell you, hey, you have a second lien on your home that you need to pay off with the money that you get from the sale of your home. What is their information? And you say, I don't have a second lien on my home. I only have a first mortgage. And they say, no, you took out down payment assistance and you owe the people who gave it to you. So the down payment assistance wasn't a grant. So please make sure you do your homework when you go to accept down payment assistance. Please be sure you know if it is a grant that does not have to be repaid or if the assistance will come to you in the form of a second lien that is accruing interest that has to be paid back over time.
And that is very true for a lot of down payment assistance programs, which is why you got to understand what you are getting into. Let me explain to you how this can be really devastating. So let's say buy a house, you use down payment assistance, and a year later, 1 year later, you get the dream job, like job that you've been waiting for forever. But it just so happens that you have to move to a different end because you have to move to a different location. You have to sell that house. Now, in a traditional scenario, you have to pay a realtor times two, right? Closing costs, especially in this market, sellers are paying closing costs again. It's here in Metro Atlanta, sellers are paying closing costs. Depending on when she bought that house and how much she paid for it, she may not even have any equity. On top of that, you have to pay back a down payment assistance grant, which could easily be $10, $12, $15,000. So another mistake that home buyers are making, not understanding that mortgage, not understanding down payment assistance. Y'all gotta read the fine print. And if not, ask your realtor.
I bought a house. Here are 3 things that I don't like about owning my home. Number 1 is maintenance on stupid stuff. One of those is cleaning out my garage. Today I spent my entire Sunday vacuuming up the garage, taking everything out, dusting off the cobwebs. Mice and insects are another thing that I don't like about owning a home. A couple months ago, we were cleaning up the house and I remember seeing these like little grains that I thought were little grains of rice, and I asked my fiance, what is this? Like, what do you think this is from? And he's like, oh my God, that's mouse poop. Every drawer, even where our clothes were, like in the kitchen, everywhere we found mouse poop. I hate mice. I literally hate mice. And I had to disinfect everything that had been touched by poop. Finally, if something breaks, it's my fault. In April of this year, our dishwasher broke. Turns out the motor on the dishwasher went bad, even though we had only bought the house 2 years ago. So then we just ended up calling Samsung. They had to send somebody out here. It really disrupted my work schedule. I had to be home for a couple days while this guy came. He had to come out and inspect it. Then he had to buy the part. It ended up costing us like $350. $350 is a lot of money that it could have set us back if we weren't prepared. Overall, I love my home. But there's definitely some parts about home ownership that nobody talks about online that is still important to know, especially if you're in your 20s, if you're post-grad, and you're thinking about buying a house in the near future.
Yep, and I don't want to guess. I'm not here to judge, but it sounds like she made another mistake that I don't want you to make. That's skipping the home inspection. She said that she had mice inside the house. Now, that either means things. Number one, you live in a very, we say, unsatisfactory condition. But it doesn't sound like that because she was cleaning out the garage. So I guess it seems like she's a pretty clean person. Right? But she ended up with mice, right? These are the type of things that a home inspection could have found. Like, I know my home inspector. Shout out to my home inspector, Brandon. He's going to comb through that home a fine tooth home. Like, he's gonna make sure that he doesn't miss anything. Brandon is the greatest home inspector. If you are here in Metro Atlanta and use him, please reach out to me. I'll send him over your way. Make sure that their home is inspected properly. The same thing with the appliances, right? Now, there's no way to tell like whether an appliance can go out in 2 weeks, 1, 2 years, right? But there are telltale signs. Some of these things will come up during the home inspections. If you are planning on buying a home, definitely make sure that you do not skip the home inspection. It is mandatory. I'm working with my clients. Like, literally, you will have to fight me in order to not get a home inspection. That's how I am about it. It only costs like $300, but it can save you from having to deal with a ton of different things that could come down the road. That home inspection is going to take a look at your roof, wood rot, mold, all of the appliances, foundation, plumbing, electrical, you name it. Anything in that house is going to be checked by a great home inspector and make sure you don't have trouble coming down the line, just like she did. That wasn't even that bad, but it really is an inconvenience in your hard-earned money and have to deal with it.
Here are our regrets of buying a house in 2024. Don't do.
Yeah, I think the first one was when you apply for the loan, you only have 3 months to settle for a house. And in the 3 months that we were looking at houses, nothing really met our standards or had anything we had.
Or the realtors.
Yeah, we were also working with one realtor, and she refused to drive to certain cities because they were too far, and I've never actually heard realtors doing that. So then we switched to a different realtor.
And she did not want to put the offer in.
And she refused to put in offers if it was $15,000 below. So one of the houses we looked at was $765, and we were offering $750, and she kept telling us no. And she also convinced Alyssa to put in an offer for the $765 house for $795. So Alyssa ended up offering $30,000 over, and I didn't know that because she was like,
I was trying to surprise her with one that we thought was cute.
yeah. And then we talked about it together, and I was like, no, that's not right. Why are we paying $30,000 over? And the location was terrible, honestly. It was a really nice house, but it was in the ghetto. But she got pressured by the realtor because the realtor took her there. We went there 3 times in the house. We liked it. And the realtor convinced her, so she did it. Anyways, she backed out. And when she backed out, she had already put
The earnest money.
back. And the realtor on the other end refused to give the earnest money back.
Would not give it back. And with me, sometimes I'm not comfortable.
All right, so I had it enough with them. I can't even tell whether they are sisters or whether they dating. I don't care which one they are. They brought up 2 points in the list here. They had an experience. All right. So number one is a lot of you, when you are buying a house, you just choose a realtor because they are your friend or they look a certain type of way. I've talked about this in previous videos. One of the mistakes that home buyers make is just choosing the wrong realtor or not taking the time to choose the right realtor, right? Either one can have devastating circumstances. You just heard they say that one of the realtors they were using wouldn't take them to see houses, right? I'm like, how you gonna get paid if you don't take somebody to at least see a house? It doesn't even make any sense, right? And then the other realtor, I'm not even sure if this was the same realtor, forced them, essentially forced, right? And nobody can force you to do anything, but they advised them they wanted to go $15,000 under. The realtor advised them to go $30,000 over. So that's a $45,000 difference, which I don't know what these girls, they must be only sure they might be. I don't care. It's a $45,000 difference, right? And then on top of that, because of the way that the realtor handled the situation, they lost their earnest money. Wow, look at that. So there you have it. Choosing the wrong realtor, that's one of the mistakes that you can definitely make. And then on the other side, they also mentioned that the neighborhood that they were looking in was quote unquote the ghetto, right? So you guys, all right, listen, y'all got to stop just moving anywhere. I get it that got a certain time frame that you want to be in the house. Some of y'all like the little gentrified areas. Listen, you need to be doing your research on the areas that you are planning on living in. So look at the school districts. See, here's my thing, right? Before I even tell you that, I got a 3-point model that I want everybody to use when you buying a house. And if everything don't check off, you might have a problem with that house. All right. Number 1, school districts, not private, public. What does the public school look like, or how does it rank, right? If it's a good school, check. That's checking off on the Market Genius list, number 1. Number 2, grocery stores, right? What grocery stores are in the immediate area? Are you living in a Sprouts Farmers Market area, a Trader Joe's area? Or are you living in a Food Depot, Food Lion, Winn-Dixie area? Or even worse, a Wayfield. Then me and my wife, when we bought our house, we didn't do that, right? And the Wayfield was right there. And I'm telling you, it's a little bit different vibe living right beside the Wayfield. right? Third thing that I will also check out is just the crime statistics, right? Like island area, right? These are all the type of things you need to know. Apparently, they made the mistake, and yeah, it probably did end up costing them. I don't know where they ended up moving to, but that's that.
I have owned my home for 3 years at this point, and I wish more people would talk about how home ownership isn't all it's cracked up to be. Now, I am very grateful to own a home. I think it is a big blessing, but I just feel like people should go into it informed. One thing I think people don't talk about enough is the true cost of owning a home. It is not just the mortgage payment that you're paying every month, it is a lot more than that. So when someone says, "Oh, I bought a house for 600,000, I sold it for 750,000, I made $150,000," no, you didn't. Because what about all the money that went into it for the past 3, 4, 5 years that you held it? I have paid my mortgage, the interest on my mortgage, I've paid maintenance costs, I've paid realtor fees, I've paid my closing costs, I've paid so much, and nobody talks about that. So in reality, that $150,000 profit is actually not $150,000 at all. Again, I am super grateful to buy a house. I would never complain about that, but I just want people to know the real before they buy it. Let me know if you want me to talk more about this topic.
I regret buying a house because the money's just stuck there. If I don't sell the house, it's really a liability. If I would have done it differently, I would have saved the money, used the money to build another business or to invest in assets that could create real income.
All right, well, I think you all get the point, and I'm trying to put down here. Stop making these mistakes. Don't make these mistakes when you're buying a house. If you appreciate the video and the game that we dropped during this video, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, join the Genius Crew. We got some really great things coming along. And if you got a couple more minutes, please check out the video that's on your screen because hey, we not stop. We are on the march towards 3,000 subscribers. So get there. 1,000 subscribers, 850 away. All right, so you joining, they can drop us down to 849. Go ahead, join the Genius Crew. I'm actually about to hit the gym, put on this weight, man. Got to pump